This is a little bit more finishing work. I know one of my major weaknesses is once I tend to get a set going, I tend to then consider it done, even though there's little bits and pieces that need finishing up. On the Tonfunk, this is the bezel that surrounds the 3 tone buttons that are on the right hand side. And it bugged me for ages that since this was such a high-end, device back in the day, that I just couldn't believe that they would leave a bezel like this, where you could see the 2 panel pins that had been used to hammer it into the cab. And so it occurs to me that there was almost certainly some sort of a little surround decal that went over that, that has somehow come off over the years. And so I've been mocking up, just with a piece of paper here, something that would do the trick. And so then the next thing is to decide what actual material should that be made of. My initial reaction is a piece of thin veneer, because the panel pins are very easy to get in and out of the wood. The cab is quite soft wood, so I'm pretty sure that if I made a veneer surround like this and glued it on there with the pins already fitted, I could just press the whole thing back into the cab and it'll look nice and neat then. Not sure I'm going to be able to do this on a piece of veneer without making a mess, but we'll give it a go. So here we go. I sprayed some sticky goo onto the paper template, stuck it to a piece of mahogany veneer, and you get the idea. I think it'll look a little bit better with something like that in there. Now the only challenge is I need to varnish it or put some sort of protection on the wood, obviously, and it's mahogany, so it needs to be filled, and it's extremely fragile, obviously. So I think what I'm going to have to do, since it actually fits correctly when you go on this way, is I'm going to have to stick this down onto a piece of wood with some of the same sticky goo, so that I can fill and sand and shoot a coat of something on top of this, and then when that's done, get it off the backing board without breaking it and glue it in here. Easy peasy, Japanesey. Okay, it doesn't look like the veneer is going to work out. Too fragile. I sprayed some sticky goo just to get the pattern onto the veneer. I cut it out and it came out nicely without splitting. I then got the template off the veneer. But then the thing is just totally too fragile, because the residue of the sticky stuff, if it sticks to your finger and you pick it up, you break the veneer to pieces. So I need something thin but a little bit more resilient than this. So back to the drawing board. Okay guys, it looks like process number 2 is delivering better results. What I did was I mixed up one of these epoxy compounds that I got way back in the day when I was actually looking for a way of making the new grill for the bezel. And this is also pretty cool stuff for casting knobs and stuff like that. At this thinness it's quite supple and soft, which is helpful. So what I did was I inverted the no, I didn't. Let me get my act together here. So I simply pressed this in to the clay so that it came up here, and then I obviously oiled it so that the plastic would release, and then I just filled the whole cavity up here with epoxy or acrylic or whatever it is. I'll look it up and see. Then when I took it out, I just basically took it off and cleaned it up, and so this is looking quite nice. So I think this will work. I thought it's that sort of 1950s type cream color, so I could probably just leave it as it is, but actually it's not. It's much whiter than the rest of the knobs on the Tonfunk. So I think it's better to have it a lot darker than to have it too bright. So probably I'll leave this to see if it hardens out more for tomorrow. And then I'll probably sand it and see if I can just shoot some dark brown onto it. And if that works, I think that'd look nicer. As I say, like this it looks fine, but it just sticks out way too bright when I put it onto the console. So, looking good at this point. We'll let this harden up. So here we go, guys. Here we go. The next day. So I shot some undercoat, followed by a satin dark brown, and this looks pretty okay on the set. I'll show you when it finished. So all I got to do now is get the pins fitted. There is a slight recess on the back from the molding as to where the heads of the two pins will sit. It's probably not enough, so I may need to just run a drill very gently into each of those locations to provide room so that when I press down, the heads of the pins don't try to come through the plastic. But yeah, this mix it up compound is really cool. It sets real quick. It is definitely harder now today than it was yesterday. It also sands really nice with the sandpaper. So yeah, I'm good with this stuff. We'll be using this again. So I filed down the heads of the pins to a certain degree, and then I drilled a little countersunk very carefully using just a regular twist drill and just twisting it by hand so that there was a recess to cater for the head of the pin. And there we go. So my intention is to just put a tiny little spot of epoxy in each corner here, ideally not touching the pins because I need them flexible so they line up with the holes in the wood. And yeah, and see how we go. Okay, so far so good. So I just put some tiny little pieces of epoxy just to tack it. Kept away from the pins so they're flexible, they move, so I'll be able to line them up with the holes. So it just remains to press it back into the console. So there we go, finished job. I've no idea if it looked like that in the beginning originally but I think it looks a little neater now than just the bare metal with those exposed rusted pins visible everywhere. The brown is a little bit light compared to the dial glass, but hey, I think I'm pretty pleased with that result. So guys, I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up for this multicast stuff. I'm pretty pleased with it. In fact, had I known on the bezel grill that I was going to need to paint the little pieces that I made, I would have used this stuff. The benefits of this stuff is it's equal portions of the 2 components. You can see that the particulate settles out of this, so you gotta mix it up and shake it well before you use it. But when you mix the 2, you literally have about 2 minutes of mix time, and then it's very exothermic. Then you can feel it heat up, and like this little tub here, I monitor the temperature with this little guy, and the temperature got up to like 64 degrees centigrade as this thing cured. And it literally 45 minutes later it's hard. That might not be 100% hard, but it is effectively hard, and solid as a rock this morning. And in fact, in the write-up that comes with this stuff, it does mention that if you're going to mix large quantities of it, you do need to be careful because if the quantity is too large, the thing may actually combust. And the color is nice too. It's got that sort of, I don't know, a period creamy color to it. It's just a little bit too white though for stuff that's already aged. So compared to my bezel plastic surround here, it's noticeably lighter, but it is close. It is close. So yeah, I think I'll be using this stuff again.